What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and we are back. Week 1 is in the books, and the beauty of the NFL on full display right away. So many one-possession games, close games. It was a full slate. The beauty of going from 1 p.m. Eastern time all the way to 11 p.m. Eastern time and being entertained with some great football, culminating in an ESPN classic #1 game if you played college football NCAA back in the day on PS3. That's what that Bills Ravens game was. So let's deep dive into it all a little bit. Who are the big winners of the week? Who are the big losers? We're going to focus on 3 winners and 3 losers that we saw this weekend. And a lot of different things go into it. Obviously, for the winners, they won the football game. We did a huge debate here on Birds vs. Boys about moral victories and taking positives away. No. These 3 teams won the game, but a lot more went into it. What that meant win at this point of the schedule, it being early, the impressiveness of the victory, the trajectory of your team going forward after a win like that, all of those things kind of played in. And then for the losers, it's not just the fact that they lost the game, why that loss could be very detrimental to them going forward. So we got 3 winners, 3 losers, and we like to be positive. So let's start with the winners. Let's start with the people who stuck out the most and should come away feeling good about their team after week 1. And my first winner of the week is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I think somebody who's watching this is probably going to be thinking, going a different route, being like, wait, I think there were some more impressive teams than the 49ers. But listen to me on this one. They go on the road to Seattle, where it's a tough place to play. They get a 1-possession victory. They get a late touchdown to win that game and seal it. Nick Bosa then seals it on defense with a strip sack of Sam Darnold as Seattle is driving. They win in Seattle 17-13. But beyond that, they get a tough win on the road. You go into that week thinking Christian McCaffrey, the calf injury. Oh, shit. Here we go again, meme, with him and a calf injury. Instead, you get prime Christian McCaffrey out of that, where he had 20 plus touches. He was the focal point of their offense, and they needed it because they sustained more injuries during that game. They lost George Kittle to a hamstring. They lost Jawan Jennings to a calf. And you think about where this team was since the end of last year. They traded Deebo Samuel away. Brandon Ayuk is still rehabbing, so you didn't have those guys. You lose 2 more skill position guys as the game went along, and 2 people who we thought could stand up for them if they were healthy and be focal points in the offense were Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey. Again, coming away from this game and being 1-0 after going through all of that in Seattle, that's a tough place to play, and knowing that you can trust again in Christian McCaffrey, and it looks like Ricky Pearsall took that next step. I think those are huge positives for this 49ers team. A lot have been talked about that they don't have that hard of a schedule. It's not a great strength of schedule. Well, it's a tough week 1 win on the road. And again, with a lot of these games, what the NFL did is you got divisional matchups. They said hit the ground running. And it's a small sample size, so it's tough to really gauge these teams early on in terms of how well they're going to play over the next 4 months. But these games are going to matter when it comes to division winners, playoffs, everything like that. When you're hitting the ground running with these divisional matchups early, they win a divisional matchup on the road, survive it in the midst of injuries, and get their guy, Weapon X, Christian McCaffrey, back. So number 1 I put was the 49ers for that one. Now, number 2. This is the one everybody probably saw coming. The Buffalo Bills. I can't say enough about that performance, about that comeback. That was a classic. I cannot believe that is how we started the NFL season on Sunday Night Football. There's just something special as you kind of end your week and you're just sitting down and you're like, I got one more football game before my week starts. I hope it's a good one, especially if your 2 teams aren't playing. You're like, I'm in this for fantasy or for gambling. I just want to sit down and have a good time before my work week starts. You got exactly that. You got exactly that from the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm trying to think of a game that was as crazy as that one. And the only one that I could think of that was even remotely close was the season finale regular season game between the Chargers and the Raiders a few years ago, where they got put into like the Stanford prisoner experiments theory, where a tie between those 2 teams, they both would have made the playoffs. So there was a mental checkmate going on between them. This was obviously very different, whereas high flying, every star in that game played like a star. You got everything from that game. So that comeback, to be able to pull that off and just set the tone early that Josh Allen is the MVP, he's here, and we're going to talk about it. Somebody has to step up and beat the bully on the playground in the AFC. It's a solid start for Josh Allen to beat the Ravens to kind of set themselves up going forward. You know what quarterback is going to be at the end of the road for these two teams. You know who it's going to be. You have to get through these guys. Josh has to get through Lamar, and Lamar has to get through Josh so you can meet the final boss. That's the biggest thing in the AFC right now. It is this triangle. And you go, and it feels like these two teams always end up in the Bermuda Triangle when they're matched up with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and you know they'll be waiting at the end, so you have to take each other out first. Well, Josh Allen did a perfect job of that. I mean, what a performance. And it's not anything against Lamar. It's just like I said this on our prediction show. The Ravens just have a insurmountable, not insurmountable, but just a head scratching amount of losses where it looked like they would have been victories, and you just walk away saying, what the hell just happened? How did they lose that game? You can't even believe it in real time that they lost the game. That's kind of how you feel with the Ravens, and they started with that right away, and it's much in large part to the performance of Josh Allen and the Bills. So number 2 winner on the week, the Buffalo Bills.
Baltimore brings some pressure, and Allen throws. It's caught on the run. Coleman tripped up at the 9-yard line. Timeout, Ravens.
All right, our number 3 winner. I alluded to this with the Bills, and this team kind of falls in the same category, albeit not as much success in recent years as the Bills or the Ravens, but they have to meet the same final boss if they want to have playoff success, and it starts with winning your division, which they have not been able to do because they can't get through this team. The Los Angeles Chargers are my number 3 team. I'm all in on the enough of the ifs, enough of the coulda, woulda, shouldas with this team and with a lot of quarterbacks in the league, including Justin Herbert. I really like Justin Herbert a lot as a quarterback. But at some point, you need tangible, physical evidence that you can do this, and it has to start somewhere. This isn't the end of the road, but to get to the end of the road, you have to start paving that road, and they did so Friday in Brazil. I thought they were clean in their execution. It felt setting up. Last year there was so much talk of the Chiefs and their ability to win one-possession games and their ability to make these nearly miraculous comebacks every week. And there were the Chargers in that fourth quarter executing flawlessly on offense. The Chiefs score in the third quarter. What do the Chargers do? A 6-minute drive on offense to go down and score themselves and just kind of retaliate in that sense. And I thought they were just so crisp and clear. They were so good at spreading the ball around. Quentin Johnson had the game of his life. Lad McConkey, we thought he would be a huge part of the offense, and he was. And then Justin Herbert at the end making the plays with his legs. It feels like they do have a 1-2 punch with Najee Harris and Amarian Hampton. Even if Najee Harris doesn't have a 1-2 punch in terms of eyeballs available to him, they were still really good, and it was exactly what they wanted to do. Run the ball well, set it up, play action, and, trust Justin Herbert with his laser arm to make those plays, and they did. And I thought crisp execution-wise, as good as the Bills were, I think if you wanted to highlight who was the most crisp offensively, I'd put the Chargers in that fourth quarter and really in that second half as the winner of the weekend. And again, with 2 of those teams that I mentioned, the Bills and the Chargers, this is not the end-all be-all. I'm aware that this is just week 1, but if you're going to finally make it up the mountain and beat the final boss, it kind of reminds me of rap recently. There's somebody who's been at the top of the mountain for the last decade. Eventually, all of these people needed to group up and finally beat the person at the top. It, at least after week 1, feels like you could be confident that this is the year that one of those guys, Herbert, Allen, Lamar, I'm not going to put Joe Burrow in there because I don't think I was that impressed with the Bengals, but that they could be there at the end as well. One of those guys could step up and be at the top of the mountain and beat the guy who's been at the top of this mountain for so long. So those are our winners of the week. Like I said, doing 3 winners, 3 losers. We wanted to start positive. We wanted to start with the winners, but we do have to focus on some teams not as flashy, not as great on offense execution, not as fun to watch. So the number one loser I have for the week was the Atlanta Falcons. And here's why. I predicted that they would win their division because I'm very high on Michael Penix. I think it's the best, you know, chance that they've had where they have really good skill position players, and I believe in him as a quarterback, and I believe in his arm. And you had a good opportunity week one at home against the team of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who keeps winning your division. You could set the tone in week one that you are here to throttle them and to knock them off the throne. Instead, you lose at the end. You lose in a painstaking way, a missed field goal. You set yourself up to win that game, and you just can't pull it off. Then they give up a late touchdown late to Emeka Buka, who, if we want to talk about individual winners, he is a huge one for the week. I think the Bucs have the second coming of Chris Godwin with him, ironically. But for the Falcons, you give up that late touchdown and you think, okay, this is going to be the Michael Penix legacy drive to make that statement that we are here. We are a contender. We are going to take over the NFC South. And you miss the field goal. You're 0-1. You lose at home to the Bucs. And it's like now you're going to spend the next 16 weeks kind of digging yourself out of this hole in this division with the Bucs. It's early, but it felt like that could be your statement game week one. You look at it, the Chargers are in the same position. A team keeps winning the Chargers division. They get that team week one and they beat that team week one. It sends a statement to the fans that this could be different this year. I don't think if you're a Falcons fan waking up today, you feel like it's any different this year. I think you're a believer in Michael Penix, but in terms of the overall culture of the Falcons, I feel like you don't feel too good. Now, on to the number two loser, and I will put an asterisk with this one. I think they were put into an environment where they were set up to fail. The Detroit Lions are my number two loser. They went on the road to Lambeau. It just felt like a special moment at Lambeau. They were the primetime game. It was beautiful weather. The CBS crew is there. Everybody's tailgating. It felt like football euphoria watching that game.
And now watch Micah. It's already 27-6. The game's horrible. Jared Goff's just trying to put something together, and then just look out. Look out. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. That's a sack.
I think the Packers had a lot of juice going into that being week one as it is, being at home, being the primetime game. You add Micah Parsons to the mix and just the crowd eruption when he entered the game, it felt different. It felt like I said, football euphoria in those moments. I don't think any team was going to be able to overcome that. So the Lions, they got thrown in the lion's den, honestly, and they really looked like they struggled, and they were able to get nothing offensively. And you can make the case that the Packers should be on my winners list of the week. But for me, the problem with the Lions, like I said, asterisk because they were set up to fail, but offensively, you lose Ben Johnson, you lose a lot of your coaches, and you're like thinking, okay, well, what would we look like post? Would we still have that same kind of, flair to our offense? Well, they got nothing down the field. You look at it, Jahmyr Gibbs had 10 targets, 10 receptions, and was only for 30 yards. There was like an average of 3 yards per play. Like the adage in football is like chunk plays. They were getting the opposite of chunk plays. They were getting nothing. They were and everything felt so hard. A lot of that, again, is that the Packers have a good defense that they added to with Micah Parsons, but it just felt so difficult for the Lions to be able to get themselves down the field, for them to be able to have those, flair trick plays that they were so good at last year that turned into big chunk plays. And I think you're a little bit concerned waking up as a Lions fan today without Ben Johnson, who's now the coach of the Bears. Oh, is this what our offense is going to be? Is this just what it's going to look like now? Is Jared Goff going to turn back into a pumpkin? A Cinderella ride is over without Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator. I think that's your number one worry. Again, it was the toughest test that they could have faced. I use this analogy all the time. When you're a young kid, what do your parents make you do to learn how to parallel park? They give you the biggest car possible, the minivan, the pickup truck. They make you go into the toughest imaginable car to learn how to parallel park so that you can do it in any car. Well, the Lions, I think that's the toughest test that they are going to face is being on the road, Lambeau week one in Micah's debut. I think that's the toughest defensive test that they are going to see. Albeit they failed, but if they can get through this, maybe they can bounce back a little bit. But I think you're of a point of concern right there. All right, number three loser, and we end it with this. In this team, no offense, I thought they were going to be on the losers list a lot, and it somehow was even worse than I imagined. It was a train wreck from the beginning. It was the train wreck in a first half. It took one quarter for their franchise receiver to be screaming at the head coach, and it is the New York Giants. Again, I didn't expect much from the New York Giants this year. I did not expect them to be a playoff team. I think that they are better than they were a year ago. Their offense was anemic a year ago, and I thought they'd at least make strides. Like, I thought this could be a team that could win 7 games would be frisky and be in a lot of just like, close games where they battle it out, but they just don't have enough firepower. They don't have enough depth yet. They have good position groups, but maybe not a good overall defense or an overall offense. It was so bad on offense. It was a brutal watch. The offensive line got absolutely dominated up front by Washington. It was a very predictable offense. It felt like even us, the casual watcher sitting on the couch, knew what play was coming next, whether it was going to be run or pass. It looked like they were trying to force the ball to Malik Neighbors, but even when they got him the ball, it was more of Malik Neighbors making a astounding play. His biggest play of the day was a gain of 25 that he caught on a deep ball, but he caught it over the defender in double coverage on the classic like Russell Wilson moonball. But again, it was pressure in Russell Wilson's face all day. The line just could not set the edges for the running backs to get outside. The Cam Scatterbo, like, you didn't see much from him. You thought like, hey, maybe they have a guy in him. I just thought they couldn't get anything at the line of scrimmage. They got absolutely dominated up front. It is now the third season in a row that they haven't scored a touchdown in week 1. I just don't know what hope you could have taken from that. And it was a game that you thought you might have hope, where it's the debut of Abdul Carter. You have year 2 Malik Neighbors, who we think could be a top 5 receiver in the league. You got some guys there now that you have something to believe in. I believe in less, which is really hard for me to do. A team that I didn't think was going to make the playoffs, I now think could be one of the worst teams in the league. And it just feels like they're in a position where they're constantly looking over their shoulder on the sideline. They're just waiting to see when Jackson Dart is going to play. I think this is going to be a quarterback carousel this season. Nobody seems to be bought in on that team to Russell Wilson leading that offense. I don't think they're bought into the coaching staff. I think that was pretty evident. I think Malik Neighbors was frustrated throughout that game. Eventually, they're just going to keep looking over their shoulder enough that they're going to go to Jackson Dart. But even that offensive line, I think they could get Jackson Dart killed. So I wouldn't shock me at some point if you saw Jameis Winston as well. So all in all, I thought that was a disaster. I thought they were the loser of the week. And if it weren't for the Dolphins, who did not make the loser list, I think we would be talking a lot about what the Giants did. And then you get after the game, Russell Wilson being like, it was a physical game and we left it all out on the field. And you get just like that generic coach speak. And it's like, you're not getting it. And the guys aren't bought in. And you can tell, if you watch enough sports, you can tell when people aren't bought in. They are not bought in that locker room for the coaching staff or the quarterback. So I would not be shocked to see Jackson Dart. If they start 0-2 in the division, they got the Cowboys next week. And the Cowboys have historically had their number in recent years. I think you can see Jackson Dart by week 3. And hey, maybe then they'll end up on our winners list. But for this week, the winners list was the 49ers. Tough road win with some injury issues on the road in Seattle. A late win. 2, the Bills, Josh Allen, in his first appearance since winning MVP was remarkable, and we got a remarkable game overall. We were the true winner in that one. And 3, the Chargers, stepping up to the bully, making a statement week 1 and winning in Brazil against the Chiefs. On the loser side, the Falcons had the opportunity to do the same thing as the Chargers, and they failed late, losing at home to the Buccaneers. 2, the Lions, post Ben Johnson, did not look great on offense, couldn't get anything going. It was very rigid, and they did not survive the Micah Parsons debut. And 3, the Giants, our final loser of the week, just not able to get anything going offensively, looked anemic on offense, don't look bought in, and it looked like an offensive line that is going to struggle yet again. So that's our winners and losers for the week. It just feels good to be back. Like I said a few times, we were the true winners, getting to see some of that football today and throughout the week. Thursday, Friday, Sunday, it all lived up to the hype. I thought it was a very enjoyable watching experience through week 1. Excited to be back, and we'll have more for you this week on the Birds vs. Boys YouTube channel.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Hey, idiots.
Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is
Dude,
gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That
Be
is.
the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.